Okay. Give me a second. Make some adjustments. This is just a little sample from my pond. And this is Epistylus, I think. Is it Epistylus? I forget which one it is.
Hi.
Hi.
I made slime.
You did?
We made butter slime.
It looks like you got the slime all over you.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do I mean?
It's like, it was originally this like dark purple color, but it was still like, it looked milky. But then we added the clay to make it butter slime, and it got all like lavender colored, and it's really shiny now.
Butter slime?
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Okay.
It's really fun to play with.
Is it?
Yeah. Also, it sounds good.
It sounds good. You're trying to give people the full experience by playing with it? Oh, Vorticella, that's what
No,
it is,
literally,
sorry.
it sounds good. We're gonna make another batch here.
Okay.
This time instead of being purple, it's gonna be teal, like.
Hey, Unmagical
green
Me.
and blue.
How's it going? We're looking at some wiggly things in the water. And lost my focal height here for a second while my daughter came in and played with some stuff. Oh, it's a little bright. There we go. That is a rotifer. Yes, it's from my backyard. This came out of the pond. If you watch my bird streams, I sometimes point the camera at the pond where I have a bunch of goldfish. And today's probably the last day that it'll be frozen over. So I think tomorrow we're expected to get 50-degree weather, and then sometime by the middle of next week we'll be in the 70s. So having a pretty good Saturday, Sam. Thank you for asking. Hopefully yours is going well. Just did a little bit of tinkering with things all day. Worked on some lectures and stuff for next week. It's the end of our spring break, so this is the last weekend, the weekend before I have to sort of get back into the swing of things. Inside of it, I think you're talking about, hang on, it's been so long since I did a stream with my light microscope. I don't have any of the, I need to ungroup, hang on. This thing, this is called the Mastax. It's basically how it eats. This is just called an antenna. The thing's sticking up there. Hopefully it'll come back into our field of view, or I can move us around. So rotifers have these sort of two rotating sets of cilia. They're not really rotating, they're just wiggling in like wave fashion. And it causes the water to create small gyres that funnel food and whatever else is in the water towards its mouth. And then its mouth is basically between the two wiggly bits with the ciliates, the corona. If we're really careful, if it pops open when we trying to get right in the field of view when it sticks its face back in here. It's about to go for your run? Okay. Good to see you, Pack. Hopefully your run goes well. Let's see. Put this in there. And if I can get it to focus, it's a little nervous, I think, because of the vibrations that I'm making, but that's its mouth you see open right there. And it has a little ciliated sort of area inside its mouth, but when it folds its feeding apparatus out, thanks for that, Pack, you'll see the sort of like the spinning parts of a broom, a sweeper. It will start to spin these things, and then basically the water will kind of funnel towards its mouth through convection. It's being very shy. All right, we'll see you later, Pack. I think we're going to do a little Valheim later. It should be fun. Let's see, it's been almost 20 years since I looked at living thing in a microscope. Do you have something special to keep? Sorry, move this so I can read what you're writing. To keep the light from heating the water. Oh, these are LED lights, so they don't actually generate a lot of heat. It'll heat the water a little bit. But incandescent bulbs usually make a lot more heat. But this is just purely LED, so it will heat the water up a little, but it's not going to be enough to create a problem for them. So, octams, that's not a diatom, it's a rotifer. So that's a Deloid rotifer. It's spelled with a B. Deloid rotifer. And the Deloid rotifers are, here you can see it's got its little antenna. Oh, there, it pulled out its feeding apparatus. You can see them start to spin now. They're not really spinning, but that's its antenna. That's sort of its chemosensor, sort of like its nose. And these little red spots are actually eyes. And you saw it sort of fold these things out of its head that are like little sweepers. These are called corona. They just spin. The name comes from crown. And then the rotifers have these things that look like wheels, basically, but they're not. And they spin around their mouth area, and it pulls stuff into their mouth. And then this is the feeding canal, or their throat, basically. And it goes into this thing called a mastax, which chomps on stuff. And then its stomach and rest of its body down here. Its hearts are back here somewhere as well. You can see sometimes things get caught up in the gyre associated with the current that they're making. So it's just got a bunch of trash basically spinning around in its little gyre. And it's because these little cilia that are right here, they look like they're rotating, but really what they're doing is like a coordinated, like people do a wave at a stadium, basically. It's just doing this over and over with them, and so it's going around doing this motion with them, so it looks like it's spinning. It's just an optical illusion, though. Hello, Boba. How's it going? Shout out for Boba. And Boba is an artist here on Twitch. They do some sketching and really cool sort of stencil work and painting. You can see some of the stuff is just caught up in it. I'll zoom out a bit. Maybe we can see the whole organism. They don't look like much. They're just sort of like there's its back end. Sort of wormy looking. And then back here it's got like a little 3-toed foot that it uses to hold on. And its digestive system, its heart, is back here. You can see it started to spin again. When they feel comfortable, they'll pull out their feeding apparatus and start to basically vacuum up everything into their mouths. Yeah, I like the wave at the stadium. Exactly. It does look a little bit like it's winking. The cat's winking at you for sure, though. All right, let's look around a little bit. So that's a rotifer. Deltoid rotifers are female, all of them. They don't have any males in their populations. And they just clone themselves, basically. Oh, here's some more. You can see there's another one. You can get a good look at the sort of spinning apparatus. Let's see if I click the wrong button, as usual. There you go. It's a nice clean view of the whole organism. You can see some of the parts on the inside of it right there moving around. It's digesting stuff. A lot of the rotifers, they just eat whatever's in the water, and they do have the ability to sort of reject particles if there's something that goes towards their mouth that they don't want to eat. But they, generally speaking, they'll just eat everything, and then the food gets digested, and the detritus just gets sort of, either rejected out the front end or rejected out the back end. So there's several of them in here. Here's another one. They usually can be identified pretty readily by the spinny bits at the top of them, the corona that spin around. So, and then we saw a Vorticella. Oops, there's a Vorticella right there, actually. It also has cilia that spin around. It has a bell-shaped head or body. And then you can see this one keeps pulling itself back. It's attached currently by this little retractable bit right here. And then usually this hooks onto the bottom of the bell, and then it can pull itself back in. You can see it's also spinning around its cilia at the top of its head as well. Is this just hobby hardware, or is lower magnification equipment useful? Oh, the magnification is a lie, whatever it's telling you. So currently we are at, we are at 20x with a 3x multiplier. So that's the real size of that organism. That's 0.1 millimeter. And so just to give you some sense on Magical, the 1.5 is actually my camera, the zoom on my camera, which I can modify by clicking us in a little bit. If I wanted to zoom in, it's just the optical zoom, the digital zoom on my camera. And it's multiplying it times all the other things inside the camera, the lens, inside the microscope. It doesn't have a lens, it's just basically a sensor at the top of where my hand is here. At the top there's a camera. So So it doesn't actually have a lens at all. It's just using the camera sensor that's inside to sort of capture it. Oh yes, the SEM is much, much higher magnification than this, but it's not, this isn't hobby equipment, although we're not looking at something that I study currently. This camera that's on here, the body of this camera is about $800 or $900, and so it's just a mirrorless camera body because they don't require a lens, and it just puts the light right on a sensor with no mirror. And then the microscope itself is a like a DM2500, which is it's got some pretty fancy objectives on it, which are giving this sort of high quality imaging that we're seeing. The camera gives HDMI direct out, so clean HDMI out is pretty nice. It spits it out of the camera at 4K, but the microscope itself is something like $20,000. So definitely not a hobby sort of equipment. And my lab has several of these. This is the one that we have at home. My wife is also a diatomist, and she uses this to count, and I use it to count when we're analyzing samples. And then the ones at school mostly are for our students to count on. And then the scanning electron microscope is at school as well in my SEM lab. So I have two labs, a light microscope lab and an SEM lab. And we do a lot of the identification of diatoms on the scanning electron microscope, but a lot of the analysis of the diatoms is done on the light microscope. So we use both pieces of equipment, and I would say probably we spend a lot more time on the light microscopes on these things than on the scanning electron microscope. The scanning electron microscope is really like if we need to publish a new species, or we're working on describing or something along those lines, you know. So it's a little bit more like we use it when we need to use it for this, to take pictures for posters or for publications. And then we also take pictures with these light microscopes because most people don't have access to a scanning electron microscope. So you have to kind of give them, you know, views that they might be capable of seeing, so they can identify them as well when they see them. There's another little vorticella right there. You can see it's spinning its cilia as well. There's also some of these little green algae in here spinning themselves around. It's probably just a chlorella. Because this sample comes from my koi pond, there's all kinds of algae in it. And this guy up here, which is a Cenodesmus, just the two little cells that are right here. That's a 2-cell version of Cenodesmus, and you see it has these long spines that stand up that help it float. Yeah, during the daytime I just use the SEM for streaming, and in the work that we do, a lot of times I'm using the light microscope, but we process the diatoms to clean them up from coming out of sediments. So a lot of times we, you know, you'll just see them, but they won't be moving at all because everything has been fossilized for a while. So I like looking at diatoms in that state because you can get a lot closer. There are diatoms in here, by the way. I can find some for us, hang on. But you know, in their living states, the chloroplasts and the stuff inside the cell kind of blocks a lot of your optics. And for identifying them to species, it's pretty hard if this chloroplast are still present for a lot of them. To get it into genus, it's usually pretty good, and sometimes helpful to look at them with the cells, with the chloroplast, but to get them anything higher than that to species level or whatever, usually you need to get rid of all the chloroplasts. And so we mount them after we've processed them in a high refractive index medium. There's a diatom. And it makes it so that we can see all the details of the diatoms a lot more clearly. So you can imagine if you were trying to figure out what this was, we'd have a hard time identifying it. And as a result, usually what I'm looking at is just mounted slides, which, like I said, I like looking at mounted slides, but I think probably people would prefer to, most of the time people probably would prefer to see stuff that has organisms that are moving for things like Twitch. So I rarely stream like, here's some stuff that I have that's just in a static image. But my wife actually was just saying, like, oh, I should stream me counting one day. Like, not me, but her. But she hasn't done any streaming, so this is a big worm. It's a little too big for where we are zoomed in. Can't really see much of it at once. I can tell it's a worm because these little hairs are called setae or chetae. Those are characteristic of worms. There's one there. There's one on the other side. Counting, yes, like Sesame Street. I have to count the diatoms, like it's Sesame Street exactly. Let's see if we can find the head of the snake. It's just super busy. It's looking around for trash to dig through. It also is chasing the way that I'm trying to go. So, there it is. Say hello. Oh, I'm still too close, I think. Let's see. We'll just back out a little bit. It's the only way I'm going to be able to get it. See if I can figure out where it went. We chased it across the hole. There it is. I can actually see that in the slide. It's big enough that I can actually see it in there. So that's at 10x. That's a much... Yeah, my wife's also a diatomist. Hey, Crow, thanks for the bits. It never sends me any sounds on my end. Let's hide that. We're looking at 10x right now with no multiplier, so that's about roughly the size of our organism in millimeters. So that's why it's big enough I can see it. Now we're on the back end of it suddenly. You can see the hair. I think you can see the hairs pretty well right there. They use on both sides of their bodies. This one's very busy. There's its head. So it's just sort of rooting around and everything. Hey, Nid, how's it going? How are you been? Let's see, it's gonna look better if I do this. If I can get it to sit still. Yeah. So even at 10x, this thing is so busy. It's really hard to keep it in the field of view. Been working on your confocal microscope? Excellent. Is this like a homemade confocal microscope you're working on? Here, the rotifer and the worm are friends. Here you can see more of their actual shape and the whole body of the rotifer there. Homemade, yeah. Okay, cool. You got lasers inside of a microscope that you're building. Sounds pretty cool. This isn't phase contrast. This is actually differential interference contrast. I just have the I have it pumped way down on the contrast end. So if I got rid of that, you'd see a lot more of the detail. You can see I can play with the contrast quite a bit, and I just put it in the dark back frame so people can see it a little bit more clearly. But I can turn that down and put it somewhere around there. I've got the contrast like cranked, so yeah. I do have phase contrast on here, by the way. Not for my 10x objective, though. So, I don't know if it would work on the 20. I don't know if it would work at all, actually, with this. Let me check. Dark field. Oh, this one doesn't actually have phase contrast. The objectives could take phase contrast on my microscopes at school. But this one doesn't. There you can see some of the Vorticella. And if you're a follower of my friend Studio Cornix, which I hope you are, if you're not, you should give her a follow. You could use the little emotes she has. She has one for Vorticella. It looks like this. It's pretty nice, hand-drawn emotes from Studio. She's an artist and does science art stuff, so highly recommend that you give her a follow. And I'm her moderator, so usually you will be able to catch me there in her stream as well. You can really see the cilia on these little guys right here. Let's see if I can get it to focus. And then we'll zoom way in here. There you go. You can get a really good look at it. The cilia are... Hey, Digital Seahorse. The cilia on this are sort of in a ring around the top of the bell. And they do the same sort of waving that the rotifers do to basically create gyre in the microenvironment around them. And so you can see the particles that are basically being flipped and turned by its cilia movement, basically. So just by wiggling its cilia around, yeah, Vorticella. It can spin those quite a bit and get a lot of stuff sort of moving. There's another one you can see. It's really got its cilia spinning pretty hard. They just look like a blur. It's spinning them so fast, basically, but it's these pieces right here. It's like a fringe that goes all the way around the outside of this thing. And then its bell-shaped body, basically, it's got a mouth in the middle, same way that the rotifers do. They just basically use it to consume. So they're filter feeders. And here you can see some more. That's a Cenodesmus, with that one has 4 cells. So you can sort of see 1, 2, 3, 4 in the colony. It's always 1, 2, 4, or 8. And they don't make them bigger than that. So and here we are looking at this giant worm. And you can see the rotifers, or not the rotifers, but the Vorticella and the giant worm side by side right there to get a sense of how different they are. Yes, Megatron, that's its intestines that you're seeing. And then the peristalsis, it's just using that to move. But it also uses it in part to push stuff through its stomach and its intestines, basically. So you're just seeing its digestive tract, basically. So we can kind of come back here down to the end. You can see it goes all the way to the butt. Right? Worms are pretty simple for the most part. You know, they're just a long tube. And there you can get a good sense of its like digestion from that. Up here you can see some diatoms sitting out on their own. These ones are on little stalks. This diatom is actually Gomphanema is the genus. This one. And it's basically like there's basically like a monoculture in my pond back there. It's always the same Gomphanema. It's taken over the whole lake system back there, and it's not a very big pond, but it's there all year round, sort of persisting in the attached to the sides of the pond. There's sort of like a hard plastic mat that keeps the water in, and the diatom that we're looking at out there on that tiny little thing in a mounted sample, actually I think I figured it out one time, and it was Gomphanema johnsoni. I think it's this one. I think I one time actually sat and tried to figure out what it was, but it looks like that. So it's just sitting out here. You can see how tiny it is, and how, if you click on that link, you can see how different the mounted samples look from what we're looking at here. So there's another little rotifer. So to get this sample, all I did was I took this little plastic bowl and I scraped the side of my pond, a koi pond, and just like a bunch of stuff from the sidewall basically came, into the bowl, and then I just sort of broke it up a little bit by using a pipette. So this is basically stuff straight from the sidewall of my pond, and I brought it in a little bit earlier today. So I think around, I don't know, maybe 1 o'clock, I went outside and collected some material. And that's just because I was trying to get it up to room temperature, because my pond is still quite cold. The water is 4 degrees Celsius. It's coming out of winter, so everything in there is still pretty cold. And a lot of the ciliates, which are like the Vorticella here that we're looking at, they don't really operate very well in super cold temperature, so they probably they're probably a little happier in our house than they would be right now out in the pond. You can see the really pretty movement of the cilia. Sometimes when it matches the speed perfectly of my frames per second on my camera, it will look like the cilia aren't moving at all. It'll just look like they're, look like the cilia are just sitting in place or just barely moving. It's sort of like when people take pictures of helicopters or whatever, and so it'll just look a bit like they're just sitting there. It's really pretty organisms. Really simple body plan, and oops, got a little nervous because the worm's been moving by. Hopefully it'll stick its face back out here in a second. Oh, because the worm again. It's a little tiny ciliated, really tiny little ciliated guy right there. Probably flagellated, actually. It's a nice pretty view of it. Yeah, it's a pretty simple sample, but there's a lot of stuff in it. The worm is kind of moving around quite a bit. I'm gonna switch out. I made another slide. They're both starting to dry a little bit. They're wet mounts. And I'll make another one maybe. Let's see what's in this first. This guy's really living its best life right there. It's just just spinning as fast as it can go. Zoom out a little bit so you can actually see. There you can see its back foot a little bit better. This one's kind of crawling around. And you can see how they sort of just perch, basically like a bird almost. They've got this little three-toed claw on the back of their foot. They call it a foot. And there you can see. So it's like a worm with a foot, just one foot. That's a Deltoid rotifer. This one's pretty chunky. It's a big one. It's a big lady. And you can see the antenna, which is the little sort of thing coming up off the top of its head right there. Like I said, it's sort of like its nose. It's how it senses the environment around it. There's a bunch of Vorticella and rotifers in this. You can see a vorticella that's become detached. And they can kind of swim around, and sometimes you'll find them without their base, and they're doing just this. They'll just zoom around. Thank you for the follow, Yogi Wan. There's another one. Super cute. You can see it's using its cilia rather than to pull food towards itself. It's using it to pull itself through the water. And those little dots in there are just bacteria, the ones that are floating around in it. There's another rotifer. There's another one out on its own. Pretty cool. Just swim around till you bump into something, you know? Now it's caught. It's just gonna sit there and spaz out. Oh, there's a nematode worm. I don't see many of those in the actual pond. A little tiny worm. Like a Roomba. It is exactly like a Roomba. In fact, like a tiny little vacuum cleaner perfectly, right? And then it just hits something and then it goes the other direction for a little while. It's pretty neat. That's a nematode. Nematodes are in everything. You know, they're covered the surface of like leaves and sticks and anything, basically. If you look closely at any of that stuff in the microscope, you'll find nematode worms. They're these super simple worms right here. They can handle being dried out. They're pretty commonly found together with the rotifers. Oh, there's a really pretty movement right there, right? You guys see that, right? The like super cool. It's almost perfectly timed with its rotations are almost perfectly timed with the camera's frames per second, so it looks like they're very slowly. It's beautiful. Nematodes are used as pest management tool. I suppose they could be. The ones that I'm used to seeing are on sticks. Like I have like a lichen covered stick right here. That's going to be filled with nematodes and some rotifers probably, and maybe some water bears. I don't usually see water bears in my back pond. In fact, I've never found one in water on its own. I've only found them on sticks, basically. But pretty easy to find if you see. Now you can see it's starting to spin up. And there's a rotifer. All right, let's go look around. There's another. Oh, look at all these rotifers. Oh, let's see if I can get it far enough out. Yeah. It's like a little herd. A herd of rotifers. How do I go about getting water bear from a stick? With a knife, actually. So I'll show you if you want. But really what I do is to just take the... let's see if I can get this close enough. You'll see it's just covered with lichen. And it's a stick that So there's the natural color of the bark, and then there's the lichen. It's basically like light green and white, or yellow. And I just take like a dull paring knife, and I just rub it basically like flat against the stick to scrape off the lichen without getting a whole bunch of the wood into a bowl, and then just put some water in it and let it sit for maybe 20 minutes, maybe shorter or maybe longer. But I generally found that the water bears will sort of rehydrate after about 5 minutes. But some of them don't really start moving immediately, and they'll take a little bit longer. So if you start with like an hour lead time or something, they'll probably all be there. Oh my God. I'm so excited about that. That long thing that you're looking at right there, I've been trying to find a stentor forever. I've been trying to find a stentor, and that is what that is. That is one big trumpet-shaped looking ciliate. That's a stentor. Right there. I finally found one. I've only been looking for them for like 2 years, and it turns out it's in my pond. So, here we go. Perfect. Let's brighten it so you can sort of see. And we'll zoom in. Really pretty organisms. Usually they're a little bit more common in anoxic water. But you can see this one's basically got a long trumpet-like body. This is all part of the stentor right there. We're just chasing it around. I'll find something else to look for. It'll be okay. And then it's rooted back here. So, but they can be detached. They don't have to be rooted. They don't have to hold on with their back ends, basically. Look at all the little cilia that are on its body. Just wobbling around. All right. Yeah, like a furry noodle. Exactly. I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to zoom out. And then I'm going to switch to the 20x objective, and hopefully I don't startle it. Because they can feel the vibrations sometimes. And this is a much higher magnification. So that gets us immediately a lot closer to it. And then I'm going to play with the light a little bit. And let's see. We'll backlight it, and then I'll get in close to it here. A little too close. There. You can see how the different kinds of contrast actually create different aspects of it that you might want to emphasize, basically. So here you can, oh, it's retracted. It didn't like that rotifer touching it. There we go. You can see they just stretch their own bodies out from the base. I guess it just didn't like that rotifer touching it. You can see it has little fringes cilia around the top. The rotifer just got a little too friendly. You can see the rotifer's also got its cilia out and spinning. Slightly different height. Perfect. What a beautiful little ciliate. What's really rather a big one, I guess. This is big trumpet body. And they just pull food towards their mouths. Hey Moosey, how's it going? What are you guys doing back there? Pretty good? Excellent. Let's see, now that I'm a little more closely zoomed in, why don't we see what it looks like? Oh, really? The disturbance? Hey, Pacific, welcome back. Did you finish your run already? Interesting, no internet. Not internet. Oh, yeah, interesting study. Okay. Not an internet study. Got it. Look, I found a stentor. I'm very excited. Been looking for stentors. It's one that was just here mixed in with all the other things in my pond. Let's look really closely at the... Let's zoom in. Let's see if we can... So this is a lot of optical zoom. Let's see if I take it up to 40x, what happens?
Eyes playing tricks like tiny round devils.
And we've got to make some adjustments on the filter down here. Oh my goodness. And so now the depth of field has gotten very small. So it's hard to get much of it in focus at this height. When you start to magnify it like that, you need to let a lot more light in. And so the contrast, the dark contrast background's not quite as good. Put the googly eyes on the stentor. It's a good call. Let's see. Let's see if I can get it on there before he starts moving around. Oh, it's like this. Oh. There we go. Quick, take the Google command. Googly. There. I've got to move my camera back over. There we go. Perfect. There we go. Now you can googly all you want. I gotta get him to sit still. There we go. Yeah, there you go. Except for he moved his head. This is what waving everything around. There we go. I'm googling. Let's see. How do I make it brighter? I'll just have to pump it up here. And there we go. Perfect. I'll just get him to sit still for long enough. You can see the cilia really nicely now, though, that I've zoomed in because of the, yeah, like right there. So my main focus right now is trying to keep its eyes on its head. You gotta go drive home, your run is done. Okay, good. We'll see you soon. And then Valheim, probably. Look at that. I'm so excited I found a stentor. Even googly eyes and all on him. Also, Studio, welcome in. Oh, he pulled himself in. Where'd he go? Oh, I see the water droplets coming after them. All right, let's zoom back out. We're in at 40 is like super close. Good use of the googly eyes. Could have used a mustache, but I don't think we would have gotten to it in time. Here you can see the Stentor is being attacked by the water right now. The air bubble is creeping in on it. It's being imposed, and it's not happy about it. So now it's curled up in a little ball down here. Yeah, we've played a lot of Valheim. Pack and I play on each other's servers occasionally. I don't think we've ever streamed it. I think I've threatened to stream it before. I probably need to get this thing out of here before it is completely bubble dried. It's unhappy right now because it's right up against the edge of the bubble, and it's getting squeezed into other things as a result. So probably we should get it off of the stage, so I can keep a population of Stentor in my living in my sort of pond area. That'd be nice. Some other little doodads in here. We'll just get another sample going. Say goodbye to the Stentor for now. Give me a second while I grab a thing. Got to rinse off the slides into the original sample again. They haven't gone very far, so it'll be okay. And I think that the first sample with the worm on it probably also needs to go back in. Yeah, so they just came out with an update recently for Valheim where they have new enemies in an ice cave or something. And I was playing around with it a little bit earlier today. Just I don't think I've played Valheim this year, really, even. We played it a lot last year. Yeah, like we beat all the bosses, and I think maybe except for the plains boss we haven't tried yet. But so there hasn't been a whole lot of reason to play it for us. But they've been adding new content a little at a time, and so occasionally I pop it in and update a little bit on it. Yeah, you're waiting too? Well, the ice cave stuff is pretty neat. Just adds a lot to the sort of strategy a little bit to the mountain region. Let's zoom out. I'll crank the light down. Oops. Throw the mouse out from underneath here. Because it gives you a place to hide, basically, which is nice because the mountains are pretty exposed. Some of these little barrel-shaped critters. It's a ciliate. Right there. Just spinning around very quickly. Don't really know what those ciliates are. We have lots of Vorticella and Chlorella, Cenodesmus, rotifers, some big worms, a Stentor, diatoms. This is pretty much what we see when I look through the ponds normally, although in the summertime there's a lot more, like substantially more Cenodesmus, to the point where it just gets taken over by it, because the fish basically concentrate nutrients. I'll just put it that way. Oh, there's a whole bunch of little Vorticella in a colony. All hanging out. Hang on. I need to zoom out. There we go. Very pretty. Let's see, this time last year you made a challenge, 1 world, full foliage, put all boss trophies up, 0 deaths within 100 days. And you failed, finishing the last boss on the last day, but you couldn't find the second to last boss until 13 days later. Yeah, there's some Vorticella emotes for people who like Vorticella. Fans of Vorticella should give Studio Cornix a follow. The place to go click the heart button. So she's drawn a bunch of the critters that we're looking at right here, and Vorticella are one of them. These really, really cool art she's got. And now we have Vorticella all over the place, right? There we go. And Vorticella are separated from the other types of little bell-shaped bodied organisms by the fact that they can retract. So they're on this like springy, here, there's like a springy connecting piece. And they can actually pull themselves when they're distressed. They can pull themselves back like that one just did. You can see how it coiled itself up and then let go independently. So when they get distressed, they'll panic and they'll pull themselves towards the base. They can also become disconnected, and then they, instead of causing material to spin around like it is here in this drop of water, they will use them to propel themselves. So they switch from being fans into being propellers, basically, or impellers, and they pull themselves around in the material, try to find a new place to find a home. We saw one earlier that was in this material that got completely detached. It was one of these big-bodied ones like this guy. But it had let go of the coil part, and it was just cruising around looking. Oops, it's unhappy for a second. Hopefully it'll come back. There it comes. You get a good sense of the shape, and there you got to see it fold its little cilia out. So pretty cool. When they panic, you can see that they actually like pull the cilia around to protect themselves, and then when it started to unfurl, basically you saw the cilia come out and then they start to spin. So yeah, like a tiny little rose. How's it going, Slang and Lumber? Nice to see you here. we're looking at some live stuff from my from the pond in my backyard, and I have a koi pond, but it only has goldfish in it right now. It's a good source for me to just be able to grab a sample whenever I want. It's handy. I think I found another stentor. I'm not sure what this is. I think maybe it's a stentor. I think it's just working its way out into its trumpet shape right now. Yeah. Yeah, definitely stentor. It's a different, I think it's a different species than the one we looked at before. You see how it just sort of folds itself out into a entangling, how's it going? Into a little trumpet shape. And there it's got its cilia spinning as well. It's pretty cool. It's not the same stentor, so. Cliff Alistair McLean. Hi. How's it going? Welcome in. We were bouncing around in the bubble for a little bit. It's about to end. It's I don't even look at the bubble. I'm busy looking at the stentor. It's right now. It's all I care about. So like I was like, oh, I guess I'm moving around in there. I've got a bubble, and I can be bounced around in the bubble. You can also change the color of the bubble. There's an option to shake it up too. If you, I think you can do that one as well, where you can shake me up in the bubble, and it has a let's see, a 20% chance of turning purple, which is not an option that you can get otherwise. So you got Fiery Studio, but if you do it enough, it'll turn purple. Purple is an option, and I should do something when it turns purple. I should make it like a jackpot, you know, and you get something out of it. I haven't figured out how to do that yet, or what I want to do, but oh, what is this? Hello. Etch a Sketch skills activate. I need to zoom out a bit. I'm never gonna see it like that. There it goes. I'm not sure what that is. You have to take an algebra test. What are you taking algebra test for? Not sure what that chunky little guy is. Maybe it's a stentor. Oh, maybe it's Strombidium. I think we see those in anoxic conditions. It's a type of ciliate. There, I get the good optics going on it. You can see this like ring of cilia around the top end of it, and it's sitting still enough that it's like a little pickle, a little hairy pickle, like a kiwi. It's kiwi ciliate. A placement test. Oh, nice. Oh, anonymous cheerer just subscribed. Anonymous cheerer subscribed? Anonymous gifter gifted a tier 1 sub to anonymous cheerer. That's a lot of anonymous. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. Anonymous cheerer is an actual username, apparently. It's pretty funny. Yeah, I think maybe it's Strombidium. It's they like anoxic conditions. slightly anoxic conditions. The winter time. Oh, it's starting to look very stentorish now, though. It's starting to stentor out. Maybe it was a stentor all along. Yeah, I think that's what it was. It's definitely trumpet shaped now. Oh yes, anox. Anytime you put the word an in front of something, it means without. So anoxic means without oxygen. Yeah, sorry, I forget. You can also say like hypoxia is the other way people say it, like low oxygen. Hypo means low, and ox, so hypoxia. Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely ask anything. If I'm talking over your heads, or if I'm using a bunch of jargon, just ask. Let's see. Y'all won't believe it. I've been good all weekend, and my body feels Monday coming, and all of a sudden my back hurts. Oh, well, that's terrible. Are you gonna go back to school? Is that what's gonna happen? You're taking a placement exam for school? Or is it for work? They make you do algebra at work? It's definitely a stentor. You can see now it's attached to the something. Yeah, this is the last 2 days of spring break for me. Although I don't have class on Monday, but I have a bunch of work that I need to do on Monday. And it's pretty nice. Now I've found all these really cool ciliates in the pond, and I just catch them at the right time of year. I've got a couple of stentors today, a whole bunch of rotifers. We've seen a whole bunch of deltoid rotifers. There's another Vorticella. We saw a couple of different species of Vorticella. You're going back to school. That's awesome. Is your company going to pay for it, or is it something that you're just doing? You're spring breaking around the tournament. I see. I'm not sure. I think our strategy this year is the first time. Last year we didn't have a spring break, which sounds crazy, but it's what my university did, because they wanted to start school 1 week late. And as a result, all of my students were just completely burned out by the end of this semester. And so I was teaching 5 classes last spring. It was crazy busy for me. And I just decided I was going to try to make it as reasonable as possible for students in my... There's another stentor. They're all over in here, actually. And this one's got a little nematode worm in there squirming around. There's a little worm in there doing his worm thing. There's a Vorticella. See if I can find the... Oh, the stentor's over here. There. Gorgeous. Well, it's from rags to riches today with the stentors. I've never had a stentor in my pond. I've never found one, and yet here we are today just finding them all over the place. So it's just the right time of year, I suppose, for them. Oh, here's a little Vorticella that's not attached to anything. Oh, I think we lost him already. He's behind a junk. I can track it. It's right there. This is a little bit of what we call optical dissection. You can actually see through things in the light microscope. So I got it for a little bit here. If you find the right height, basically stuff is in focus, and you can see through the things in front of you or behind you. So 100% paid. Excellent. Yeah. So that sounds like a great deal. And hopefully then you can get a job where you can do something besides your current job if you want. Or you could get a pay raise at your current job, maybe. It's a little rotifer. It's a good deal for company. You can see it's spinning its little corona around on the top. Perfect. Lots of little things that like to spin the top of themselves around. Let's zoom out. Oh boy, there are a lot of Vorticella right here. And a rotifer. And they're doing their cilia spin just at the right speed. There you can see that they're just wiggling those cilia. They're waving hello. That's beautiful. And here we see Andrea Vorticelli warming up for a concert. Yeah. I bet if Vorticella could sing, they would have beautiful voices. There goes one just crawling through the screen right there that was detached. Just went swimming by. All of these Vorticella are just doing like a slow bristle movement. And they're big enough that you can see just everything. It's beautiful. You get a good sense of the movement. Like I said, it's like doing the wave. It's like two rows of hairs doing the wave. Why do they bristle like that, though? What's the point of it? So, oh, there's a rotifer creeping in behind us trying to photobomb. The movement of the cilia, that pattern that they're doing, like this. Let's see, I have a camera here. It's basically like doing the wave. And what it does is it creates a gyre in the water. And if you actually look at the particles, these particles, there's no current in the water. They're just making a current, basically. And it pulls food, like a little vacuum cleaner, towards their mouth. And they just sit there spinning their cilia, and it pulls all the food towards their mouth, and they don't have to move. So, yeah. So they have little mouths that are in the center of the bell right here. And the food gets pulled towards it. And then they just eat it, and they spit the food parts that they don't eat back out. I think their mouth is also their butt for these ones. But they just pull in the food here. And you can see this is where they're attached to the little stalks they can retract on, right? So there's no openings anywhere else. So lots of the ciliates, that's their strategy. And I mentioned that they can also use them if they detach. They can actually detach themselves from this spring-like structure, or they can get detached if something pulls them off. And then they can use this to basically propel themselves around in the water. So they use it to basically like a jet propeller. They use it to pull themselves around. And we'll occasionally see one go by that's detached from everything. Let's see if I can find one, because they're really interesting when they go by like that. And you realize, oh, they can get detached, and they need to be able to find a new place if they use up all the resources where they are. Oops, there's one. I don't know if you saw that and whether I was too close in. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, that one's not attached to anything right now. So it's just using the cilia to pull itself around. hard to keep it in focus because it's going up and down a lot. But yeah, I've seen them also get detached from the back side of the coil, and then I see them dragging their little spring through the water, which is really weird. See them like go, but also drag the spring around with them. That's the nematode. It's a little nematode worm. Pretty cool. There's a little tiny nematode worm. That one's spazzing out. It's trying to figure out, how do I get out of here? I'm stuck. And I only got one move, which is to wiggle. So I'm just gonna wiggle until I get myself free. There they go. And now they're gonna, I guess, just vibe out. Yep, there it goes. Time to go! It's excited. That's the way I usually see nematodes. They are so total spaz. They are the spazziest of all of the organisms I've ever seen in the... They're always just spazzing out. That's their approach. There's one that's loose. It's just spinning around in circles. Alright, let's see what else we can find. It's fun just spending a little time poking around at what's in my pond. And I'm pretty excited that we... Look at the Stentors. There's another one. I'm so excited about the fact that there's Stentors in my pond. I don't know if it took them a while to colonize it, or if I just never looked at the right time of the year, but I'm just so excited to see them there. That's so cool. I hope they're there all summer. I want just anytime I want be able to go into the back and dig out some material with some Stentors in it. Last time when we were poking around in this stuff, and I left it sitting in my house for a couple of days, some different things hatched. So they have little egg banks basically in the material, and so we saw a lot of coleps, which are little ciliates that look like barrels basically, and we saw also some Lacrimaria, which are really cool little ciliates. That might actually be a Lacrimaria right there, or it could be a nematode. I don't know. It's hiding. I can't see it behind the mask, but they just basically, their heads come out and go seeking around for things. I think it's just a nematode. But we saw some... oh, there's a little... euglenoid right there. I don't think I've ever seen a euglena in my pond. This little euglenoid. Very elegant swimmer. They usually have like one little red eye and this sort of shape. And they're flagellated. This one you can see its little flagella. Oh, you can see him wiggling, I hope. There you can see it wiggling its little flagella. Just briefly, they're at the front end, the head end of it. I think usually euglena have two ciliates. They sort of use them to pull themselves around. Some of them don't have a ciliate or flagella at all. I think they're actually flagella, technically. There's a big old rotifer with its corona out. I haven't been on this side of the stub all the way, or slide all the way. Sometimes I've found little gastrotrix moving around in my pond. That's pretty normal. Occasionally Lacrymaria. Euploides is pretty common. I haven't seen any of those. I think they probably need it to be a little bit warmer. But it's kind of nice just to be able to see what's going on and sort of check through the ciliates. A lot of the ciliates are temperature dependent, so they have a phenology or like a seasonality, if you'd like, and they tend to prefer when the water's a little bit warmer than it is right now, because right now it's super cold. It's winter here, so there's one of those detached, spinning itself around. Yeah, the Vorticella are everywhere. We're just gonna photobomb, just gonna spin on through, and yeah, come on back. Can't quite get it into focus. You can see them. They usually are in here just going nuts. I think the last stream we had Synura. We had little colonies of Synura, and I haven't seen any of those. So that's another missing component. That is a super big nematode. They're so strong too, they just like move everything when they crawl around in there. So it's kind of nice to be able to just sort of see what happens seasonally in the pond. And I'm not formally tracking it. It's not a science study or anything like that, but I just thought, I haven't done a stream where we looked at anything crawling around for a long time, and I thought maybe people might enjoy it. It's a nice, calm, chill stream with some Vorticella crawling around and spinning, and rotifers, and we even found a stentor. Well, mini stentor. So that's pretty cool. Alright, let's zoom in here. Hey Uncle Bill, how are you doing? We're just doing a little light microscopy. A little light microscopy. Looking at the wiggly things. Yeah. Enjoying a little bit of quiet time with the organisms in my pond, and thought I would share it. Hopefully everybody's having a good weekend, and it feels like every day for the last 4 or 5 days has been Saturday, but now it actually is Saturday, right? So hopefully everybody is taking it easy and enjoying the weekend. And this is, as I mentioned, the last cold day for us. From here forward, I think it's 50s and above for at least the next week or two, and probably it will stay that way once it gets into the 70s, which it is expected to for next week sometime. Hey, Pacific, are you home? Is it time for us to do a little Valheim? The Tep is a yep. Excellent. You have time to Valheim? We're going to do it. If anybody else wants to join us, yeah, it'll be a little bit for me to, shut down things. If anybody else is a Valheim player and wants to join along, I'm sure we can find a way to make that happen. We'll probably just stream into the Discord for that, though. Stream it, yeah. You're Sandy. From running. I have some good news too, which is I'm buying I've bought a e-bike, and I think on Thursday next week the e-bike will be arriving, and I'm pretty excited to get it up and running. I know Uncle Bill is a e-bike expert, and I think they said it takes something like 45 minutes to put it together. I don't know if I'll stream putting it together. It seems like a little bit a little too wonky for me, but I should be able to go cruising around, and then I'll just stop driving my car pretty much unless it's raining. So it's a good solution for me, because it's usually way too hot here in the summer for me to ride a bike. So I think the e-bike will be a good solution, and it has an option to come with like a little seat. So let's see if I can put my little pumpkin on the back and take her for a spin on it one of these times. Should be fun. All right. Let's see. I think that's going to be it for the stream, since we're going to go run over to do a little bit of Valheim. So if you're interested in just hanging out and checking out the Valheim game, just find us in the Discord, or if you want to join it, that's also fine. It's here. And pragmatic. Yeah, it's basically like a moped that you can pedal. So, but I only fill up my car about once a month, and I imagine it will be more like once every 3 months now. So, as my expectation is that I'll probably take my bike in most of the time when I can. So, all right, let's give a raid to somebody. Our choices in my list are Freckled, Glorgana, Evilozzy, and Jolkson. If anybody has a preference in there, just shout it out, and then we'll do that. How you doing, Prag? Yeah, there's a lot of choices on right now. Also, Fizzeria is doing music stream, and I think that's it. Nobody has a preference. Maybe Jolkson is the best choice, since how they have the least exposure and they do the most similar thing to us all the time. So we haven't rated Jolkson in a little while, So let's do that. Raid Jolkson. And thanks to everybody for hanging out. We got a follow from Sir Yogi Wan. And I got an anonymous gifter gifted a subscription to Anonymous Cheerer. So nobody wants me to know who they are, apparently, but thank you for that. And just as a notice, any cheers or subscriptions or anything like that that come into the channel, I use to pay for research and supplies for my undergraduate and sometimes graduate students. So that's where all of that money goes. All right. Thanks for hanging out. And if you want to hang out some more, just hop into the Discord and you can talk back at us that way, and maybe watch Pack and I play a little Valheim, or join in on it if you have it. Feel free. Okay. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks.